So I was just thinking about something that my wife and I had talked about a while back. She'd asked me a question. It's been quite some time that's gone by now, but it was on my mind, so I thought I'd bring it up to you guys. And that is, she'd asked me one time if I liked my job, and I said yes. And she said, why? And I told her, I said, well, you have to understand, I've had a lot of really bad jobs in my life, so I have something to compare it to. And to kind of give it some context, you have to understand what I do now to understand why she's asking that. I work for a utilities company. I've mentioned that before in some of my videos, and what I do is I turn power on and off. We service the power and water for our customers, very, very wide customer base. And when somebody's in arrears or delinquent, we go out and cut them off for non-payment to encourage payment. But that's not the only thing we have in our job description. I gotta turn here. It's not the only thing we have in our job description. However, it's one of the things. And so it's when you look at what I do, it's easy to understand why one might not enjoy that, why one might not like that kind of a job, because we have a lot of haters. We represent a bill. When you don't pay your bill, we show up, and then we're hated. Well, it's not our fault that you didn't pay your bill. It's your fault, but they're mad at us, and I get that to some degree. But my point is that's why people don't like us. So it makes it seem like the job would be undesirable, right? But I actually like it. I actually like what I do, and what we do is very necessary, because if you didn't have positions like ours to rectify delinquent accounts, then the system would break. It would break, and then you'd have a real problem on your hands. Power would be even more expensive, and it'd be an even greater burden for the people who do pay. So it's very necessary. But here's what I want to say about it is I find her having her ask me that question. I didn't have her ask me that question, but with her asking me that question, it made me realize how much value I place on the previous jobs I had that were terrible. I remember, I've been working since I was, I think, 11 years old. I had a paper route up in Indiana, and I remember, I don't know if they still do that. I don't think anybody does this anymore. But I would deliver papers. I had a route. I'd either walk it or bike it out. But I had these heavy bags, and sometimes I'd have several routes. And I'd have to roll the papers up, put rubber bands on them. In some places, you had to put plastic bags. I put them in plastic bags, and you throw them on the porch, or you deliver them however the customer likes, and then you had to go, every 2 weeks, you had to go collect. And I remember that the collection was $2.10 a month, I think, or $2.10 every 2 weeks. And there were people, at 11 years old, when I was trying to collect money, there were people who did not want to pay. And I had to pay that. And there were looking back as an adult now, it's deplorable behavior exhibited by these adults, that they wouldn't pay for their paper. And then that came out of my cost, but I was proud of that job, because I remember buying my first black and white television for $66.88, probably like in 1980, 1981. But I was proud of that. So then, as I got a little older, I worked with my dad in his painting business. I really hated that. And then I worked at McDonald's. I would really hate working at McDonald's now, as diversified as it is. They have way too much on their menu. But even back then, it was a terrible, thankless job. And I didn't like working with customers, so they put me back on the grill, because whenever they put me in front of customers, I was mean. I don't know how I didn't get fired so many times, because I was just downright mean to customers. I didn't put up with crap from anybody, and I stood up to people, and you can't do that nowadays. You just can't do that at all. So that was a bad job. I worked at a donut shop after McDonald's, and some other part-time jobs were like working at printer shops, and I'd work the graveyard shift at the donut shop, and all those jobs, they didn't pay crap. None of them paid hardly anything. And yet, here's the thing about it, and I don't know where I learned this. I don't know where I think it was a matter of survival, but I learned how to enjoy every job I had, because I never knew where I was going to go. I didn't know if it was ever going to get any better, and I didn't want to live my life not enjoying my job. So I figured out a way to really enjoy it, and the way I did that was I took pride in what I did. I delivered the best that I could of myself, and I always pretended like I was working for twice as much money as what they were paying me. I was trying to give whoever employed me the value of twice of what they were paying me. And that made me enjoy my job. When I worked at McDonald's, I'd send up burgers. They look like the pictures on television or on the screen or on the board where you order your food. And I really enjoyed my job that way. But then I got to be older, and I worked in pest control. And you can imagine rats, roaches, all sorts of vermin and insects. And then, termite work. You had to crawl underneath the house, dealing with rats and snakes. You're pulling a 35-pound drill behind you. Those jobs suck. But they added value to my work experience in my life. And when you get to points like this where I'm at in my life, where my job physically is easy, and it's more adult-like. There's a bonus in that when you have an adult job, and this is what I try to impress to my kids, is that I think it's important for young people to have crappy jobs, just like I think it's important for young people to have, for a first car, a cheap used car. I think that's important, because where do you go when your kid starts off with a real expensive Jeep or a BMW or Mercedes, like I see at some of these school parking lots? And so I think it's extremely valuable to have crappy jobs, because let me tell you, and I tell people this, I tell young people when I order my food, I go into a fast food restaurant, I order my food, and I say, how are you doing? It could be better, I work here. And I tell them, it gets better, and someday you're going to look back and be glad you worked here, because every job after this is going to be better than this one. And it just keeps getting better. But you have to, I think a lot of it depends on your attitude. But learn how to enjoy your job. Whatever job you have, I don't care what kind of value anybody else puts on it. What matters is what kind of value you put on it. And this guy's pulling right out in front of me. But it's so important that you develop a healthy attitude about work. And I think what I wanted to say about this was that I'm really concerned about how universities and commercials on TV and everything out there in social media tries to make kids think that they can be where their parents are now if they go to school and get this degree, and if they take this path with them. You'll be where your parents are now. You'll be there next year, and I think it's wrong. And I see where kids actually buy into that. Now, I don't think it's working, because I still see young people doing the jobs that you and I hated when we were younger, but they're led to believe that they could do it, and in some cases maybe they do, and I don't think it's healthy. And even if they are doing it, what do they have to compare it to? What do they have to compare it to? Where do they go when it gets rough and they can no longer do what they're doing now and they have to step down? You have to have room. I think it's so important to have room to move up. It's better to start at the bottom than it is to start in the middle or at the top. that's just my thoughts for today. It just happened to hit me, and I thought, why not? I'll just flip the camera on, and I'll talk to you guys on my way to go pick up my wife. And anyway, I will catch you guys on the next one. If you're doing what I'm doing, which is driving, be very careful when you're making a video. It's not really that distracting to me, but the law says it is. So, and then you get funny looks from people at stoplights. But I think it's hilarious. You know what? How much different is it than when you have a Bluetooth in and you're talking to yourself? I think that was more ridiculous. All right, guys. I'll see you in the flip flop. Bye.